Have you ever heard that VA loans have no closing costs? Or maybe you've been told the sellers have to pay all your closing costs. Well, that's one of the biggest myths in the mortgage industry. Today, we're going to separate facts from fiction and explain exactly what veterans can pay, what they can't pay, and why the truth is actually better than most people realize. Let's get started. If you're new to this channel, my name is Jerry Robinson. I'm with First Choice Mortgage, and I've been in Idaho roughly about 30 years now doing loans for veterans and achieving home ownership. If you find this video helpful, please like it below, subscribe to the channel, and share it with other veterans or military family. Really helps the channel grow and helps us reach more people with accurate information. Now, let's get started with myth number 1. VA loans have no closing costs. I wish this was true, but it's not. It would certainly make my job a lot easier, but it's simply not accurate. The VA loan program does not eliminate closing costs. Instead, the VA protects the veteran by limiting the type of fees they can be charged. That's a big difference. There's still legitimate costs involved in buying a home, like title work, recording fees, prepaid property taxes, insurance, homeowners, and other expenses that transfer with the property at home ownership. So yes, the VA buyers do have closing costs, but they're protected from paying certain fees that the VA considers non-allowables. Now, let's move on to myth number 2. The sellers have to pay all the veterans' closing costs. Again, that's not really true. The sellers can pay for some or even all of the veterans' allowable closing costs if negotiated in the purchase contract. In today's market, we're seeing that happen fairly often. But the sellers is not required to pay them. Everything is negotiable. Depending upon the market, the home, the offer, you're making the seller pay some, all, or none of your closing costs. That's why having an experienced realtor and a lender working together can make a huge difference. Now, here's where things get a little bit more interesting. The VA has something called the 1% rule. This is one of the most misunderstood parts of the VA loan program. Rather than charging a veteran certain individual fees that the VA considers non-allowable, lender may instead choose to charge a flat fee or 1% loan amount. This 1% fee can cover many of the otherwise non-allowable closing costs. If that sounds complicated, here's the important takeaway. The VA is designed to protect veterans from excessive lender fees, while still allowing vendors to be compensated fairly. Another area that creates confusion is seller concessions. You may have heard someone say that the VA allows 4% in seller's concession. Now that is true. But seller concessions are not the same as normal closing costs. Normal closing costs include expense like title work, recording fees, and prepaid items like insurance. Seller concessions are additional benefits that the seller may agree to pay, such as paying off collections, covering certain debts, or expenses and going above and beyond a typical closing cost. Understanding the difference is important because they're treated differently under VA guidelines. Here's what I want every veteran to remember after watching this video. The VA does not limit closing costs. They simply limit the closing costs veterans can be charged. That is one of the many reasons the VA loan remains one of the best mortgage programs available for those who have served our country. If you like a complete breakdown of which closing costs a veteran can pay, which closing costs are considered non-allowable, and how seller concessions can work, and much more, I've created an in-depth website. I'll put a link in the first comment below, and you can watch it and see what it looks like in the webpage. If you have questions about a specific situation, whether you're in Boise, Meridian, Nampa, Caldwell, or anywhere in Idaho, I'd be happy to help. If this video has cleared up some confusion around the VA closing costs, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, or forward this to another veteran, active member, or realtor who this may be able to help. Thanks for watching, and again, make it a great day.